Part 27. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 261. Han Lin's expression changed. What does Miss Ling mean by this? Ling Chu glanced at him and said softly, it means that these guards of your Dingyuan palace are going to die soon. Ling Chu didn't lie, nor was he a threat. There was chaos during the fight, and then her horse was hit by an arrow and ran away with the carriage. She did not take a close look at the faces of the guards, but now that she was getting closer, she could see that they were all darkened and had a deathly aura lingering about them. Han Yao asked these guards to kill her. Originally, Ling Chu would not let them go like this. But since they were all about to die, there was no need for her to take action again. Han Lin frowned and looked at the guards, seeing that they were all covered in wounds, but those injuries were not fatal. The guards looked at me, and I looked at you, with doubts in their eyes. One of the guards couldn't hold it back and said sarcastically, we are not delicate women. This injury will not kill us. Ling Chu said softly, you can't die from external injuries, but in half an hour, the poison in your body will be enough to kill you. The guard was stunned for a moment, then became furious, you poisoned us? You are so cruel and ruthless, you really have the most vicious heart of a woman. Ling Chu looked at the guard and sneered, I didn't expect your guards at Dingyuan Palace to be so shameless. They only allowed the state officials to set fires but not the people to light lamps. It is natural for you to come to kill me. If I poison you, will I be the most poisonous woman? Based on what you have done, if I had administered the poison, do you think you would still be alive standing here? The guard turned red all of a sudden and said for a long time, since it wasn't you who poisoned us, how could there be poison in our bodies? Ling Chu simply ignored this issue. It's not like her guards were poisoned. Even if these people died, it had nothing to do with her. The guard was secretly annoyed when he saw that she ignored him. Do not believe in evil and operate your internal energy. Just when he wanted to prove that he was not poisoned, a fishy sweetness suddenly surged up in his throat, and he opened his mouth and spat out a large mouthful of blood. Fell down with a thud. This incident made other guards change their expressions. Han Lin quickly stepped forward to check with the guard. Just when he stretched out his hand, the guard suddenly started bleeding from all his orifices. Han Lin's expression changed, and he quickly touched acupuncture points on his body, trying to protect his heart veins. It's a pity that it's still too late. The guard's heartbeat and pulse were gone. In the blink of an eye, the guard was gone. The guards of Dingyuan Prince's mansion were all heartbroken. Originally, they didn't believe Ling Chu's words, but now, no one doubted it anymore. Thinking that they had less than an hour left to live, the guards were even more desperate. With less than an hour left, it would be too late for them to go back to the doctor to detoxify. It will take an hour at the fastest to ride a horse back from here. If they can use their internal strength, they can also use Qinggong to give them a try. But even if they could find a doctor, they couldn't cure the poison immediately. After all, it takes time for a doctor to diagnose and treat, analyze toxins, prescribe, and prepare medicine. Han Lin frowned and stood up, have you eaten or used anything since you left the house? These guards were fine when they were in the house, but they must have been poisoned after leaving the house. But the guards shook their heads and said, Your Majesty, we didn't eat anything after we left the house, we just left the city. Having never eaten or used anything, yet she was poisoned for no reason. This is unreasonable. Those guards are all still young, and no one wants to die like this. They were all quickly analyzing in their minds where they had been poisoned. One of the guards suddenly changed his expression, hesitated and said, before leaving the city, the county master asked the maid to bring us wine and food. Han Lin's face turned dark. Before the guard finished speaking, he was interrupted by the guard next to him, Wu Zhang, are you crazy about your anxiety? How could the county master poison us? The guard who spoke earlier didn't look good either. He didn't want to doubt Han Yao at first. But thinking that he was about to die inexplicably, he was really unwilling to accept it. I have had abdominal distension these past few days and basically have no appetite to eat. The whole day today, I didn't even drink a few sips of water. Until the county lord asked the maid to bring us wine and food, I saw that the maid kept urging us to eat. Thinking that it was the county owner's good intentions and it was hard to offend her, I drank a bowl of wine and ate a few bites of vegetables. As soon as the maid left, he put down the bowl and chopsticks, and he didn't eat anything after that. So, the poison on their bodies can only be put into those drinks and dishes. No wonder the maid served everyone with wine and food, and then served them with great enthusiasm. It turned out that I wanted to watch them and eat the poison. The guards felt angry and sad at the same time. They followed Prince Dingyuan and his son through life and death, originally hoping to gain a future. After King Dingyuan was crowned king, the officials in the court who were at odds with his political views were very angry. They either stared at his mistakes every day and tried to catch him, or put eye drops in front of the emperor. In order not to be suspected by the emperor, King Dingyuan could only keep a low profile and be patient. Naturally, these guards could not find a good future. That's it. Unexpectedly, they helped Han Yao do something, and she actually wanted their lives. Han Lin's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. He really didn't want to believe that his biological sister would poison his guard. I don't even understand why she did this. Ling Chu glanced coldly at the bleeding guard, turned around and prepared to leave. Unexpectedly, Han Lin suddenly said, "Miss Ling, do you have a way to save those guards?" "Why, does the Crown Prince still want me to save your bodyguard?" Han Lin looked embarrassed. He knew that Han Yao wanted these guards to kill Ling Chu, but he wanted her to help save his life. It was really wrong. But these guards had been with him for many years, and he really couldn't bear to watch them being poisoned. I know that our Dingyuan Palace is at fault for this matter, but these guards have shed blood and sweat on the battlefield and swore to protect my peace to the death. I also hope that the girl can save their lives for the sake of the loyalty of these guards. Ling Chu was not moved by Han Lin's words at all. So what? Is the Crown Prince willing to save the enemy who wants your life? Han Lin was speechless. The enemy wanted his life. Of course he wouldn't be stupid enough to come to the rescue. Since the prince is unwilling to do something, why should I save them? These poisoned people are not my guards. Whether they are dead or alive has nothing to do with me. Han Lin smiled bitterly in his heart, unable to accuse her of not saving her. But he couldn't let those guards lose their lives like this. Seeing that she was about to leave, Han Lin could only say quickly, "Is there a lack of guards at the girl's house? If the girl doesn't mind, let them serve you by your side in the future. I just asked the girl to save their lives." Ling Chu paused. If she took away all the guards from Dingyuan Palace, Han Yao would be so angry that she would vomit blood, right? "Your Majesty, are you really willing to give me all these guards?" "Don't worry, girl, I will ask the steward to deliver the bodyguard's deed to your house tomorrow." As soon as Han Lin finished speaking, Han Yao's soul couldn't bear it any longer and opened her mouth to vomit a large mouthful of blood. Thanks to book friends such as 641,417, Fans Hung Sing, Bao, Heng Jichui Shang, China Fuse, Sun Lost/CP and other book friends for their recommendation votes. Continue to ask for votes. Come to my bowl quickly. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 262. In order to prevent Ling Chu from entering the palace to attend the banquet, Han Yao originally wanted the bandits to kill her. In order to ensure that she could kill that bitch, she also asked Han Lin to borrow a bodyguard. Let them pretend to be passing by, offer to help kill the bandits, and then take the opportunity to kill Ling Chu and her guards. Han Yao even thought about poisoning the guards and framing the bitch. Even if King Ding Yuan and his concubine find out about her life experience and how vicious she is, they will not have a good impression of her. She planned so carefully that she even made the wedding dress for that bitch. Seeing Han Yao vomiting blood, Ling Chu's lips curled up. Immediately, he took out a stack of contracts and said to the guards, "If you want to live, just sign this contract. No one wants to be poisoned if they can live." The guards hesitated for a moment and then signed the contract. Ling Chu gave them the detoxification pills he bought from the system. After taking the detoxification pill, the guard tried to use his internal energy and found nothing wrong, and he was relieved. Han Lin was relieved that the guards' lives had been saved, and then he realized that Han Yao hadn't woken up yet, and there was a trace of blood spilling from her mouth. "Yao Yao, wake up." Han Lin heard what Han Lin said, but Han Lin couldn't hear her response. Seeing that she was still awake, Han Lin felt a little uneasy and was about to take her back for treatment by the imperial doctor. Unexpectedly, something unexpected happened at this time. One of the guards suddenly jumped up and rushed toward Ling Chu with a long sword. "Girl, be careful." Seeing that the guard's sword was about to slash at Ling Chu, Xiaoji exclaimed in fright. Yang Yun and the other 3 guards were shocked, and at the same time they waved their swords and stepped forward to stop them. Ling Chu looked at the guard coldly, refusing to dodge. Everyone thought she was frightened. Just when the long sword was about to hit Ling Chu, the guard suddenly stiffened for a moment. Before everyone could react to what happened, they saw him falling from the air without warning. It hit the ground hard. With eyes wide open, eyes fixed on death. Everyone was shocked by this turn of events. They looked at Ling Chu and the dead guard, but no one spoke. The scene was quiet. "Miss Ling, this..." Han Lin opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. Ling Chu glanced at him and explained casually, "It's nothing. This person signed the contract but wanted to betray it, but it was backfired." He even smiled and said to the guards who had signed the contract, "Take a good look, this is the consequences of betrayal. Thinking that the poison was cured and there was no danger of life, so you wanted to kill her?" She had been on guard for a long time. The contracts signed by those guards are not ordinary contracts. If anyone betrays them, they will suffer backlash. Zhao Yuan got up from the ground, only to see that his body was still lying on the same spot, and then he realized that he was dead. He glared at Ling Chu angrily and was about to lift his sword and strike again. But he heard a familiar urgent cry, "Guard Zhao, save me quickly." Zhao Yuan turned around in surprise, "County Lord. I thought Han Yao finally woke up, just when he was about to rush over." But he was stunned by the sight in front of him. Han Yao's soul is fighting with a swollen puppet soul. "Zhao guard, help me quickly." Seeing Zhao Yuan standing still, Han Yao was angry, but she had to call him for help. Zhao Yuan came back to his senses and felt heartbroken when he saw Han Yao's embarrassment. "Don't be afraid, County Master, I'm here to save you." How could Zhao Yuan allow the girl he had secretly admired for many years to be bullied by a lonely ghost, and he wanted to rush forward with his sword in hand. Zhao Yuan wanted to be a hero to save the beauty, but he was whipped over by Ling Chui's Bodhi whip. While he was howling in pain, Ling Chu quickly sealed him and took him away. Watching her savior being destroyed by Ling Chu, Han Yao was going crazy. But no one could see that there was a puppet soul trying to her body. Han Yao had to bear her anger and asked Ling Chu for help, "Miss Ling, please save me." Ling Chu didn't even look at her. He turned around and left with the people. The guards who signed the contract silently bowed to Han Lin and then left. Han Lin frowned and kept looking at Ling Chu's back. For some reason, he felt more and more familiar with her, but he just couldn't remember where he had seen her. Obviously it was the first time we met, but he still felt friendly. Ling Chu didn't know that Han Lin was struggling. Getting into the carriage, he fell into a deep sleep. It wasn't until she reached the door of the house that Xiaoji woke her up. After getting off the carriage, Ling Chu asked Yang Yun to place the 20 or so guards from Dingyuan Palace in the front yard. As soon as he stepped through the door, he saw Lu Xiangji coming up to her quickly. "Girl, the Thai madam and the first madam are here. They are waiting to see you in the flower hall." Ling Chu frowned. "Go and tell them that I'm not feeling well and let them go back." "Girl, they've been waiting for almost an hour, saying they won't leave until they see you." After the people from the Ling mansion came over, Lu Xiangji told them that Ling Chu was not in the manor, but they insisted on waiting. Ling Chu turned around and went to the flower hall. From a distance, I heard laughter and laughter. But when she entered the flower hall, everything fell silent. Ling Chu glanced expressionlessly. The Thai madam and Mrs. Dong, the second madam, the third madam and Aunt Wen are all here. In addition to them, the second girl Ling Hui, the third girl Ling Qing, the fourth girl Ling Yao, and the fifth girl Ling Wei all came. As soon as she saw Ling Chu, the third lady said with a smile, "Oh, the eldest lady is finally back, but she kept us waiting." In the past, when the third lady saw her, she was either sarcastic or sarcastic, but this time her face was full of smiles, even showing a hint of enthusiasm. Ling Chu glanced at her and ignored her. I blessed the lady with blessings, turned around and sat down. The third lady was ignored by her, her face stiffened, and she was angry in her heart, but she could only endure it. Ling Chu didn't beat around the bush and said directly, "Grandma, why are you here?" After waiting for such a long time, Mrs. Tai became impatient and said nothing else. "Sister Chu, I heard that the Queen sent you a post inviting you to the palace to attend the banquet. Is this the case?" "It turned out that I came here for a banquet." Ling Chu did not deny it and said quietly, "It is true." Mrs. Tai said with a kind face, "Sister Chu, you have never entered the palace before, so you don't know the strict rules there. Qing'er and the others have attended banquets in the palace and are familiar with the rules. This time you take them into the palace together. If you don't understand anything, you can ask Qing'er and the others to give you some advice so as not to offend the nobles." Ling Chu glanced at the people who were looking at her expectantly, without saying anything, and turned to tell Lu Xiangju, "Go and get the queen's post." "Yes, girl." Lu Xiangju turned around and left. Madame Tai and the others looked at her with frowns, wondering what she meant. Ling Chu was too lazy to explain and lowered his head to drink tea. Soon Lu Xiangju left and returned. "Ling Chu, give the post to Mrs. Tai." Mrs. Tai took the post suspiciously, looked down, and her face immediately darkened. The Empress only invited Ling Chu. Thanks to China Fuse, Dark and Twisted Crawling, China Fuse, 201811281000506706, Momentary Negligence, 201703181914308335, Happy Little, Yanglia Bank, Evening Breeze carrot, Evening Breeze carrot, Evening Breeze carrot, Happy Face, Evening Breeze carrot, Scarred, 854-729, Pros. BA, Free Walking Taurus, Panax Nodo Ginseng. DB, Tip of the Pen for the Future, 201710021517050026, 20230601621658. Add, Turn Over and Sing, The Fluttering Snow Lotus, Life is Bright. Alice. A. 140212184021428, Figs U. EB, XXC, Why We Grow Old, Colorful Life, 2023061958333531. 20230907495021, 202301210127022243, Pen Yongfang and other book friends recommendation votes supported. Thanks to Hungziu and the book friends who support Hungziu. There is no monthly ticket today. This is unscientific. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 263. Since Mrs. Tai learned that the Empress sent a message to Ling Chu and invited her to the palace to attend the banquet, she thought she had finally got the opportunity. Who would have thought that after waiting with joy for so long, the result was only empty joy? Seeing the face of the Tai madam suddenly elongate, the second madam was anxious, but she could not speak. Ever since I became inexplicably speechless, I have seen countless doctors and taken a lot of medicine, but it has no effect at all. The second lady suspected that Ling Chu was responsible, but there was no evidence. If it weren't for her daughter to follow her into the palace, the second lady would not be willing to come. The third lady was also anxious. Mother. Mrs. Tai glanced at her and said nothing, just handed her the post. The third lady couldn't wait to take it, but after seeing the contents clearly, she looked disappointed. The fifth girl, Ling Wei, couldn't help but come forward, and her face soon became full of displeasure. Mrs. Dong was puzzled when she saw the expressions of both mother and daughter changed. Take the post away from the third lady immediately. Just after seeing the content of the post clearly, Mr. Dong was not as unhappy as others. On the contrary, I felt relieved. He even whispered to Ling Chu, Sister Chu, although the Empress only invites you, Qing'er is your biological sister. If you bring her into the palace with you, the Empress won't say anything. With Qing'er by your side and her reminder of the rules and etiquette, you won't make any mistakes, and you don't have to worry about offending the nobles. Mrs. Tai was originally disappointed, but after hearing Dong's words, her heart moved. There is nothing we can do if the other granddaughters cannot go, but she and Mrs. Dong both hope that Ling Qing can follow him into the palace. This is an excellent opportunity to make friends with the ladies of various families. They all hope that Ling Qing will be attracted and married back as their daughter-in-law. Ling Chu guessed Dong's plan. The queen only invited me, so it's not impossible for third sister to go with her, but if you are kicked out by the palace guards, don't cry to me. Ling Qing's face changed. Mom, I won't go. Even though Mrs. Dong was angry, she was also worried that if her daughter was kicked out of the palace in front of the noble ladies, she would definitely become the laughing stock of Kyoto. Finally, a group of people came here in a hurry, and after waiting for a long time, they returned in despair. Ling Chu was not sympathetic at all. On the day of the banquet, Ling Chu entered the palace in a carriage according to the time on the post. The journey was pretty smooth. But when we were about to arrive at the palace, we saw Wei Feng on the road. He made a gesture to signal Yang Yun, who was driving the car, to stop. Wei Feng came over and said with a smile on his face, Miss Ling, sir, please don't worry. If you encounter something that cannot be solved in the palace, you can have someone send him a message. Ling Chu didn't expect that Ning Chui would ask Wei Feng to wait on the road to send her a message. Although she didn't think she needed to ask him for help, she couldn't bear to offend him because he had good intentions after all. Wei Feng saw that she had agreed and said nothing more. He rode into the palace to give Ning Chui a reply. At the gate of the palace, the guard checked the post and waved to let him go without any difficulty. Ling Chu took Xiaji and followed the father-in-law who led the way to the queen's palace without looking back. She arrived not too late, but there were already many ladies and ladies from various families sitting in the palace. No matter young or old, everyone is dressed up carefully, with luxurious clothes, exquisite makeup, and speaks softly. Ling Chu didn't want to attract attention. He originally planned to just find a place to stay in a corner and wait for the banquet to end in peace before leaving. Unexpectedly, the Queen Mother suddenly waved to her, "But Miss Ling Chuling, come here quickly and let me take a look." As soon as the Queen finished speaking, Everyone in the palace turned to look at Ling Chu. There are all kinds of looks of curiosity, envy, jealousy, disdain. Ling Chu was a little surprised. He didn't expect the Queen Mother to suddenly talk to her in front of everyone. Although she wanted to keep a low profile, she could only step forward to greet the Queen in full view of everyone. Those who were waiting to see her joke were surprised to see her behave properly. They all thought that she had been fostered in a Taoist temple since she was a child and did not understand the rules and etiquette of the palace. I didn't expect that there would be no mistakes in her giving a gift to the Queen. Although there was no smile on the Queen's face, her attitude was quite gentle. He praised Ling Chu a few times, and then asked her what she usually did in the house. Ling Chu didn't hide anything. He admitted that what he usually did most was setting up stalls, telling fortunes, and helping others collect debts. The Queen was startled for a moment. She didn't expect her to be so frank in front of so many people. She also praised her that even though she left the Taoist temple and returned to Kyoto, she still abided by her master's instructions and never forgot to study hard and practice hard. He also uses the mystical skills taught by his master to help those in need, and he is kind-hearted. The corners of Ling Chu's mouth twitched slightly. She didn't expect that the Queen would praise her again and again. The Queen saw her for the first time and didn't understand her at all. He praised her so much, probably for the sake of her master. Sure enough, after the praise, the Queen mentioned her master. Ling Chu still admitted that she didn't know when Xianyi would return to the capital. Although the Queen regretted not asking anything, she had no choice but to give up. Ling Chu was about to bow and leave, but unexpectedly, a noble lady on the right suddenly waved to her. "So you are Ling Chu, come here and let me take a look." Ling Chu turned his head and was startled when he saw the lady's face. Suddenly, there was an indescribable feeling in my heart. Seeing the kind smile in that graceful appearance, she subconsciously walked towards her. Seeing her coming over, the smile on the lady's face became even brighter. She reached out and grabbed her wrist and asked her to sit on the brocade stool nearby. "You are Dong Qinglan's eldest daughter. Speaking of which, I met you briefly when you were just born. I didn't expect that 15 years would pass in the blink of an eye, and you would already be a tall and graceful girl." This lady was so kind and enthusiastic to her when she saw her for the first time. The smile on her face never stopped. Ling Chu couldn't help but ask, "Madam is?" No matter the ladies or girls in this palace, they didn't take Ling Chu seriously at first. Unexpectedly, the Queen praised her again and again. This surprised everyone. At this moment, seeing that the lady's attitude towards her was surprisingly good, she couldn't help but keep paying attention to her, covertly and covertly. A round-faced lady next to her heard Ling Chu's words and was the first to explain her confusion. "Miss Ling, this is Princess Ding Yuan." Ling Chu was surprised. She and Han Yao were about to become life and death enemies. Normally Princess Ding Yuan should be displeased with her. But she didn't see any resentment or displeasure in her body. She even kept holding her hand and refused to let go. When Princess Ding Yuan saw that she was silent, she lowered her head and realized that she had been holding the little girl's hand. I was also startled for a moment. End of chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 264. Princess Ding Yuan felt in a trance when she saw herself holding Ling Chu's hand. Why does she feel so kind to Dong Qinglan's eldest daughter? I wanted to let go of her hand, but there was a feeling of reluctance in my heart. This girl is like the little girl she has been waiting for many years and got it with great difficulty. For some reason, Princess Ding Yuan still vaguely felt that she had never felt this way about Han Yao. Seeing Princess Ding Yuan and Ling Chu holding hands and sitting together affectionately, the round-faced lady next to her couldn't help but joked, "Why does the princess keep holding on to this little girl's hand? You two are so affectionate, the ground is so sticky that if you didn't know, you would have thought you were mother and daughter." As soon as the lady finished speaking, Princess Jing's hearty laughter suddenly came. It's so lively. Who are you talking about like mother and daughter? When the round-faced lady saw Princess Jing, she greeted her with a smile, and pointed to her. Here, we are talking about Princess Ding Yuan and Miss Ling. Princess Jing originally thought that the lady was just saying it casually, but when her eyes fell on the faces of Princess Ding Yuan and Ling Chu, there was no need to be startled. Not to mention, Princess Ling and Miss Ling really look like mother and daughter. No wonder when I first saw Miss Ling, I felt that her face was familiar. It turned out to be because Miss Ling's appearance was similar to Princess Ding Yuan. Tisk, 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 Mrs. Nanan Ho is right, those who don't know would really think that you two are mother and daughter. The Marquis of Nanan originally just made a joke after seeing Princess Ding Yuan's friendly attitude toward Ling Chu. But when he heard Princess Jing's words, he couldn't help but take a closer look. The more I look at it, the more surprised I become. That girl Ling really looks similar to Princess Ding Yuan. In fact, Princess Jing and Mrs. Nanan are not the only ones who feel this way. The ladies here have met King Ding Yuan, and they even think that Ling Chu's appearance combines the advantages of King Ding Yuan and the princess. Princess Ding Yuan originally felt that Ling Chu was friendly, but now that she heard the words of Princess Jing and Mrs. Marquis Nanan, she couldn't help but look at Ling Chu carefully. The more she looked at it, the more she liked it. As for Ling Chu, looking at the smiling face across from him, a sourness surged in his heart for no reason. Princess Ding Yuan was heartbroken, came to her senses, patted Ling Chu's hand, and said with a smile, I also feel that this girl looks more and more like my daughter. This is probably my fate with you. He then turned to Princess Jing and Mrs. Nanan Ho and smiled, recalling and sighing, you don't even know that I have a fate with this girl. Back then, I was pregnant and went to burn incense at Su Temple. Unexpectedly, I encountered a group of refugees who came to make trouble in the temple. Just when people were in panic, another group of gangsters came to rob the temple. I accidentally got separated from the maid and woman next to me, and was knocked down and fell by those who made trouble. There was blood on the spot. Unexpectedly, this girl's mother was also present at that time. She was frightened like me and was about to give birth prematurely. Thinking of what happened back then, Princess Ding Yuan couldn't help but feel heart palpitations. At that time, she was pregnant with Liujia and got separated from the people serving around her. She fell and bled on the spot. She endured the severe pain and tried her best to get up from the ground, but she saw Dong, who was also pregnant, screaming in fear. She was also a pregnant woman, and she couldn't bear to see anything happen to her, so she endured the severe pain and took her away with her. Princess Ding Yuan hurriedly found a side compartment and smashed it open, then helped Mr. Dong in and locked the door. There was no maid or woman around, so she gave birth to the child with all her strength. But Dong was frightened and gave birth prematurely. Seeing that she was the firstborn, she didn't understand anything and could only scream and cry. She originally wanted to help her, but she lost too much blood, couldn't hold on, and fainted. I don't know if the refugees and gangsters saw that they were bleeding so much and knew that they were giving birth, so they thought it was unlucky and did not rush into the side room. When the maid next to her found Princess Ding Yuan, she fed her century-old ginseng. Although she woke up, the situation was not optimistic. She remembered that after she woke up, she found that Mr. Dong had also given birth to a child, a boy and a girl. Princess Ding Yuan was still a little envious and wanted to take a good look at the two children. Unfortunately, she was exhausted, so she only glanced at her twice, then glanced at her daughter, and then passed out again. The maid next to her was worried that something might happen to her, so she hurriedly moved her to the original wing, and hurriedly found a doctor to diagnose and treat her. It's just that the doctor she found was not very good at medical skills. After her husband received the news and came with the imperial doctor, her condition was stabilized. Later, when she got better, King Dingyuan took her back to his home. Because she fell down and was frightened, she shed a lot of blood while giving birth alone. It took Princess Dingyuan a long time to recover. She later thought about Mr. Dong. Although she was not familiar with her at first, she thought that it was a kind of fate that the two of them were frightened together and had children in the same room. She originally wanted to date Mr. Dong, but after sending her several letters, she always said she had something to do. Princess Dingyuan stopped thinking when she saw that Mr. Dong seemed unwilling to associate with her. This is the first time Princess Jing and the others have heard Princess Dingyuan mention what happened back then. I didn't expect Miss Ling and you to have such a fate. You met when you were just born. No wonder you treat her so kindly. Princess Dingyuan smiled again and patted the back of Ling Chu's hand. No, I didn't expect that after seeing this girl after so many years, I actually feel that she is my daughter. Ling Chu didn't expect that Dong was actually with Princess Dingyuan when she gave birth to her. Perhaps the speaker is unintentional, but the listener is intentional. Thinking of Dong's attitude towards her and her similar face to Princess Dingyuan, Ling Chu suddenly had a ridiculous idea about his own life experience. Could it be that Princess Dingyuan is actually her mother? As soon as this thought came to his mind, Ling Chu couldn't help but despise himself. There are not a few people in this world who are not related by blood but look alike, and there are also a lot of people who are at odds with each other between mothers and daughters. How could she think that she was her biological mother just because she looked similar to Princess Dingyuan and treated her kindly? If she expressed her thoughts, everyone in Kyoto would probably laugh at her for wanting to climb high. Ling Chu is quite satisfied with her current life. After moving away from the people in Ling Mansion, she can live freely in the future. And she is already an adult, not a little baby who has not yet been weaned and cannot live without her own mother. It doesn't matter who her mother is. She can still live well by herself. Ling Chu was thinking about something, and when he fell in the eyes of Princess Dingyuan, he felt that she was really cute and cute. Can't help but reach out and take off a pair of bracelets from her wrists and put them into her hands. Seeing that she only had a hosta on her head, she felt too plain. So he took off the buletinho and hairpin from his head and inserted them into Ling Chu's hair without any reason. End of chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 265. Chapter 265 Summoned by the Emperor. Ling Chu was shocked out of his wits by Princess Dingyuan's actions and hurriedly declined, "Princess, you will not be rewarded for your merits." Princess Dingyuan didn't wait for her to finish speaking, and interrupted her with a smile on her face, "It's a gift from the elders, and I cannot refuse it. You were born on the same day as my Yao Yao, and I watched you be born. You are just like my daughter, this is my gift to you. Although it's a little late, it's still my intention. If you don't mind it, just keep it." Ling Chu sighed with a headache. She was at odds with Han Yao and really didn't want to accept Princess Dingyuan's things. In order to avoid being when dealing with Han Yao in the future. However, before she could refuse, Princess Jing also pulled out the hosta from her own head and inserted it into hers. He also joked to Princess Dingyuan, "I also like this girl very much. Princess, you already have a daughter, so don't rob me of her. This girl should be my daughter. That brat in my family really gives me a headache. Unlike this girl, who is so well behaved and sensible, I can just watch her." Ling Chu looked at Princess Jing with a headache, and the corners of his mouth twitched again and again. She remembered that she was in Prince Jing's mansion, but in front of Prince Jing and Princess Jing, she whipped Prince Jing's son with a whip. Although she was hitting his puppet soul at that time, the whip was actually struck on Prince Jing's body. Why does Princess Jing think she is well behaved and sensible? Okay, you all, stop arguing. I also like this girl. Just a few days ago, the bank store bought a set of jade-headed noodles. I think they look good with this girl, so I will wear them for you to play with. As soon as the queen finished speaking, a nun immediately handed Ling Chu a black box. How can you say this well? Everyone gave her gifts. Ling Chu was used to the cold looks towards her from those in the Ling family, but she was really not used to someone suddenly being so enthusiastic towards her. The Empress had no choice but to accept what the Empress had given her. Ling Chu had no choice but to accept it. The ladies in the palace are all human beings. Seeing that the queen and the two princesses have a kind attitude towards Ling Chu, no matter what other people think in their hearts, at least they are all smiling towards her on the surface. When others greeted her with smiles, Ling Chu couldn't keep a straight face and could only pretend to be shy and smile back. His face almost froze with laughter. Ling Chu couldn't help but sigh in her heart. No wonder the master didn't like the palace. She felt tired just from attending a banquet. Just as he was about to find an excuse to go outside for some fresh air, a father-in-law came outside the palace. Why is eunuch Deng here? Reporting to the queen, Miss Xianling, the emperor, has an audience. The hall was quiet, and the girls looked at Ling Chu with jealousy. The Ling mansion has obviously been defeated, and the queen and the two princesses just treat her differently. Why did the emperor still summon her? Although there were many jealous people, no one dared to criticize her in front of the queen. I heard Ning Chui remind me before that the queen invited her to the palace to attend the banquet, which was probably the emperor's intention. It was not surprising that she would hear eunuch Deng's words now. After Ling Chu resigned, Princess Ding Yuan looked at her back following her father-in-law as she walked out of the palace. She felt empty and unhappy. The queen holds a banquet and invites not only ladies and ladies from various houses, but also young men from various houses. The emperor was also in the imperial garden at this time. Ling Chu followed eunuch Deng and admired the scenery on the road. From a distance, I saw a young man in a black brocade robe standing on the roadside. Eunuch Deng hurriedly stepped forward, nodded and bowed. I have seen Mr. Ning, why are you here? The emperor is waiting in the imperial garden. Eunuch Deng, I want to ask Miss Ling to tell my fortune. Is it possible for me to do it conveniently? Eunuch Deng was brought out by the chief himself. He was very aware of Ning Chui's status in the emperor's heart, so naturally he would not refuse such a trivial matter. Before Ning Chui could say anything more, he was already busy nodding in agreement, and walked away deliberately to leave space for them. What does Master Ning want to tell you? Although he was a little surprised that Ning Chui would come to her for fortune telling at this time, Ling Chu didn't ask any more questions. After all, the emperor summoned her, and she couldn't keep him waiting for a long time. Ning Chui didn't answer. He glanced over her head and frowned. His right hand moved subconsciously, then paused. After hesitating for a moment, he still looked away and walked forward with his hands behind his hands. Ling Chu glanced at him in confusion and raised his heels. Master Ning. Ning Chui didn't have any fortune to make, but he just felt uneasy seeing her entering the palace for the first time, so he came over to take a look. Don't be nervous when the emperor summons you. He is still a wise king and won't kill people at will. Ling Chu glanced at him and cursed in his heart. Did this person come to her not to tell fortunes, but to wait here specifically to comfort her? But should she tell him that she was not actually afraid? Master Ning has seen her hit people with a whip, and he has also seen her break the wall with a shovel and a small hammer. Supposedly you should know that she is not a timid person. She is just going to see the emperor, so why do you think she will be nervous? Ning Chui was silent and squeezed his hands on his back unconsciously. Why could he always be worried about her? Ling Chu always felt that Ning Chui was acting a little weird today, so seeing that he was already walking forward, he could only lift his heels. Just because I wasn't paying attention for a moment, I stepped on a stone and sprained my foot. Ling Chu hissed slightly, but quickly stood firm. But he didn't see that a jade hairpin on his head might not be firmly inserted and slipped off. Ning Chui heard her breathing, turned around and saw her leaning a little, and subconsciously wanted to reach out to help her. But seeing that she had already stood firm, he could only stop his hand. As I was going to recycle it, I saw the hosta slipping down and quickly reached out to catch it. "Thank you, sir." Ning Chui. I handed her the hosta, and after enduring it, she still couldn't help but said, "These headdresses you are wearing today." Seeing that he was hesitant to speak, Ling Chu silently took off the bulletin yao and the hairpin from his head. "This is the meeting gift given by Princess Ding Yuan and Princess Jing in the Queen's palace just now." No wonder he found those headdresses, although exquisite, not pleasing to the eye. Perhaps the color of these jewelry is too dark and not suitable for her age? After taking off those headgear, Ling Chu finally felt that his neck felt much lighter. Thinking of Princess Ding Yuan, Ling Chu hesitated for a moment, then said, "Master Ning, could you please help me check something out? I want to know if there was anything unusual about Princess Ding Yuan giving birth to County Lord Wenan in Kongxiuguan. Why do we need to investigate Princess Ding Yuan?" Ling Chu actually wanted to ask him to help with the investigation, and it was hard for Ling Chu to hide it. Ning Chui was used to investigating cases, and he understood as soon as he heard her words, "Are you doubting that you are the daughter of Princess Ding Yuan?" Without waiting for Ling Chu to nod, Ning Chui continued, "This matter is indeed suspicious. Although Ling Shangshu and others are taboo about your fate, I don't think Mrs. Dong treats you like her biological daughter." The two people were walking and talking when they didn't see a girl in the distance yelling angrily, "Humi Isa." Thanks to Kai Yuning, Zion Kanv. 201710062015571261. 15031509564017201804114113555042. 2018041113555042 and other book friends monthly vote support. Thanks to Yuan Wan, Pen Yongfang, Zheng, Long Mao. 0, Crystal Ball, 201703181914308835. 2021102212074150. Why We Grow Old, Hengja Blowing Business, Prose. BA, Cheesy One, Dark and Twisted Crawling, All Living Things, Panax Nodo Ginseng. DB, 20230208431051, Silent Blessing, China Fuse, CHLWCH. 202301210127022243. 854-729-140212184021428. A. Purple leaves, XXC, red leaves fluttering. E. Willow Bank, Tibeman Future, 641,417, Alice. A. Dusty Memory, Colorful Life, Night Breeze Night Breeze Wanfan Wanfan and other book friends recommend and vote for support. Thanks to the book friends who support Hongxiu Xiaoxiang. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 266. I will give instructions, but after 15 years, we may not be able to find clues. Ling Chu nodded, I understand, as many as you can find. Originally, she felt that she was an adult and had the ability to support herself. It doesn't matter who her parents are. But with the virtues of the people in the Ling family, they might still use her marriage to seek benefits. Although she won't let them manipulate her, she doesn't want to deal with those troubles every day. There is also Han Yao. At first she couldn't figure out why she wanted to attack her again and again. This meeting makes it a bit clearer. There is probably something wrong with her life experience. As for Han Yao, He probably wanted to kill her because he didn't want her to return to Prince Dingyuan's palace. Ling Chu wanted to find out if there was anything fishy about his life experience, not that he wanted to return to Prince Dingyuan's palace. She had to prevent Han Yao from attacking her again. Although Ling Chu was good at mystical arts, he had no choice but to count others and not himself. It's a pity that her master is not in Kyoto, otherwise he could have asked her to do fortune-telling for him. Even her senior brothers don't know where they are wandering. Seeing that the royal garden was approaching, Ning Chui stopped and planned to leave after Ling Chu entered. Unexpectedly, the second prince's sarcastic voice came from behind, "Cerning, this is the imperial palace. The queen is hosting a banquet today. You two can have a tryst at the entrance of the royal garden without fear of being caught." Ning Chui turned sideways and looked back, and said in a cold voice, "Second prince, please be careful what you say. The emperor summoned me, but I just happened to meet Miss Ling on the road, so I went with you all the way. I don't know if it's because she was born to be incompatible with the second prince, but why she always finds trouble every time I see her." Ling Chu wanted to open his mouth to quarrel, but accidentally saw a bright yellow robe corner exposed behind the big tree, and swallowed back his words. Tisk, Lord Ning's ability to tell lies has improved. How could my father summon you and Miss Ling together? Are you afraid that I will expose you in front of the emperor? Why, do I need to ask you for permission first about whom I am summoning? Hearing this majestic and displeased voice, the second prince's expression changed. He quickly turned around and bowed, "Father, this is not what I mean. I remember reminding you that there are some things that may not be believed when you see them as a prince. You should have a magnanimous heart. You are not a royal censor, so don't spend all your time wondering whether there is something wrong with other people's behavior." The second prince was furious in his heart, but he did not dare to show it at all. He could only bow his head respectfully and bow his hands. "Yes, I will obey your father's teachings." He is an upright prince, but his father actually reprimanded him so severely in front of outsiders because of that bastard. It seemed that he had to get rid of that as soon as possible, otherwise if his father passed out one day and passed the throne to him, wouldn't he and his mother and concubine have made wedding clothes for others? Seeing the emperor looking this way, Ling Chu hurriedly saluted. The emperor's face softened, he nodded and said, "No need to be polite." Seeing Ning Chui saluting beside him, the emperor was satisfied. This girl Ling has an excellent appearance. If he likes her, she is a talented man and a beautiful woman. Just seeing Ning Chui dressed in a dark brocade robe, the emperor couldn't help but frown. He rarely went to the palace to attend banquets, and he didn't know how to dress up to impress other girls. It's so far behind what he was back then. He really shouldn't have been allowed to join the Jinyi Guards in the first place. He has always had a bad temper since he was a child, and now he is as cold as that 1,000-year-old ice. No girl can like him. This is outside. The emperor could not say anything more. He could only say to the two of them, "Now that you are here, don't stand at the gate of the imperial garden. Come and walk with me." There is no choice but to obey the emperor's words. "Miss Ling, is there any news about Master Xianyi recently?" Back to the emperor, "Master, he hasn't written to me for a long time, and I don't know where he is. If he writes to you, remember to advise him well it's time to return to Beijing. I'm still waiting for him." Ling Chu knew that her master didn't like the imperial palace, but in front of the emperor, she could only nod, "Yes, Your Majesty. I really envy the real person for living such a free and easy life. Although this world belongs to me, I am afraid that the places I have been to are not even 1/10 as good as the real person. This is a bigger golden thigh than Master Benning, and cannot be offended." Ling Chu couldn't help but put a high hat on him. "This world belongs to the emperor, you can go wherever you want to go at any time. The emperor just cares about the people of the world and wants everyone to live a stable and prosperous life, so he has stayed in the palace. Your Majesty is a wise king, and your sacrifice will be remembered by the people of this world. The emperor didn't show it on his face, but he became more and more satisfied in his heart. He has heard better flattery than this, but today he felt that these words made him feel extremely comfortable. Just seeing that although Ning Chui had been following him, he had hardly spoken, a flash of worry could not help but flash in his heart. Should it be, that you really will never marry for the rest of your life? Thinking of this, the emperor felt a sense of guilt in his heart. Sighed secretly and stopped. Okay, you don't have to follow me. The queen is hosting a banquet today. Since you are all here, you should participate well and don't let down the queen's wishes. Seeing that Ning Chui was still silent, the emperor sighed again in his heart, not sure if he understood what he meant. The second prince clenched his fists under his sleeves and couldn't help but say, "Father, the case at the Ministry of Rights." The emperor looked at him indifferently, waved his hand and said, "The queen is holding a banquet today, and we will discuss the case tomorrow." "Yes, father." Although the second prince was unwilling to do so, he did not dare to refute. Ling Chu followed Ning Chui to leave and walked out for a while. Just as he was about to go back to the female guest, the second prince snorted coldly, "Master Ning is such a great blessing. Wherever he goes, he is accompanied by beauties. This beauty is fine, you can play with her casually. However, when marrying a wife, you still have to pay attention to the right person." Originally, he thought that the Ling family had already been defeated, so letting that marry Ling Chu, who had no powerful wife, would be less of a threat in the future. But he didn't expect that Ling Chu's master turned out to be Master Xian Yi. This was a mistake on his part. Ling Chu glanced at Gongping next to him, and quietly played him with a hand. Gongping felt happy and immediately rushed towards the second prince. The second prince was walking well when suddenly he stumbled and fell down for no apparent reason. Ning Chui glanced at Ling Chu and glanced across her hands. Ling Chu blinked and retracted his hand with a calm expression. Ning Chui raised her lips, lowered her eyes and looked at the second prince who was lying in front of him in a mess, and said softly, "What? The second prince is trying to apologize to me and Miss Ling for saying something wrong just now. You know your mistake, it can be greatly improved, but there is no need to pay such a courtesy. Thanks to Kaiyuning, Yao, 2023050609471576, 202210160944285228, Hangzhi Chuishang and other book friends for their monthly support. Thank you. 15021620352969, Chen, Light Yarn, 201703181914308335, Penyong Fang, 854 729, Sunny Day, 202309241428129558, Yangliu Bank, Willow Bank, 2021102212074150, Yuan Fat and Silent Blessings. Evening Breeze carrot, Evening Breeze carrot, Evening Breeze carrot, Evening Breeze carrot, Orange Sister, 20230208431051, Forget Me Not, Taurus Walking Free, All Living Beings, Free as the Wine 459, Wuxi Night Rain, Wuxi Night Rain, Wuxi Night Rain, Wuxi Night Rain, Firefox, Why Are You Grow Old, Daoyo. EB, Dreamy Lavender, Lalunzixi, Kixi Yao, Alice. A. Why Are You Getting Old, White Clouds in the Sky L, CHLWCH, Hangzhi Chui Shang, Tibian Future, Zeng, Panax Nodo Ginseng. DB, 1402121840214228, Colorful Life, Prose. BA, Pride 728, Ixixi, Chen and other book friends recommendation votes support. Thanks to Hungziu and the book friends who support Hungziu. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 267. The second prince fell down and was already very angry. Being aroused by Ning Chui's words again, I almost couldn't breathe, so I just pushed him over. For the sake of the emperor, Ling Chu ignored the second prince, glanced at Gongping, turned around and left. Ning Chui also left with Shi Shiren. The second prince was so angry that he punched the ground with his fist. Unexpectedly, this fist hit a sharp stone, and his face was twisted in pain. Finally, I got up. The more I thought about it, the more annoyed I became. I raised my foot and kicked the sharp pebble fiercely. At this moment, Gongping suddenly kicked his standing left leg. The second prince, who was unprepared, was immediately thrown into a trap. At that moment, the second prince wanted to destroy the entire imperial garden. Thinking of someone kicking his leg just now, the second prince turned his head and looked around, wanting to skin and cramp the other person. But there was no one around. The little father-in-law who was serving him was running quickly from a distance. He would not be able to kick such a long distance. The little father-in-law doesn't have the courage either. With his martial arts skills, he didn't find anyone who attacked him. Wanted to shout that there was an assassin, but thought that if everyone saw him in such a mess, he couldn't afford to embarrass that person. In anger, the second prince could only slap the young who came to support him in the face. Over there, after Ling Chu and Ning Chui left, they separated on the fork in the road. Male guests and female guests are not together. There was still time before leaving the banquet, so Ling Chu simply stood by the koi pond and admired it. There are many ladies nearby who gather together in twos and threes to talk. Seeing that there was no one around the koi pond, Ling Chu thought of coming here for a while, but not long after, several ladies came towards the side. The girl in a lotus-colored dress said as she walked, "I heard that the queen raised a pond of precious koi carp, including several red tops, which are the best among koi carps and cannot be seen by ordinary people. Today, it's a great opportunity for us to feast our eyes on it." "Princess, is there really a red-crested koi? My grandfather always wanted to buy a few to raise, but he couldn't bear to buy one since it cost hundreds of taels of silver. Today I want to see how beautiful that red dome is, which makes my grandfather almost forget about food and drink. Hey, hearing what you said has aroused my curiosity. Let me see what it looks like." The princess, who looked like stars holding the moon, moved her lotus steps lightly and said, "The red-crested koi is silver-white all over, with only a bright red spot on the top of its head. It is easy to recognize." The ladies gathered around the koi pond and looked into the water. The koi in the pond were colorful and even more dazzling in the sun. The ladies were so dazzled that they did not see the red-crested koi. Listening to their whispered complaints, Ling Chu ate the fish food in his hand, looked down at the koi carps competing for food in front of him, and twitched the corners of his mouth. She doesn't think this red-crested koi is very beautiful, but it has been raised quite fat. Looks quite delicious. She has never eaten this standing before. I wonder if it tastes better when braised in braised sauce, or if it is more suitable as sweet and sour pork ribs. Tisk, when she thought about eating fish, she suddenly missed the grilled fish, pickled fish, and boiled fish in her previous life. Ling Chu sighed. He couldn't eat the fish from his previous life, but he could ask the maid to buy some fish and try them out tomorrow. The koi in the pond couldn't be eaten, and Ling Chu lost interest in feeding them. She was not familiar with those ladies and did not want to get close to them. Simply put down the fish food and take Xiaoji to a distant pavilion to drink tea. Seeing her leaving, the ladies took one look and looked away, continuing to look down for the red-crested koi. Not long after, a lady suddenly said in surprise, "Hey, look, what happened to those koi carp?" Looking in the direction of the girl's finger, there were actually several koi carps in the pond with their bellies turned up. Many people's expressions changed. The koi in the queen's pond were of rare species. They were originally good, but they died while they were watching. This is not easy to explain. While everyone was whispering, a girl in a silver-red dress suddenly slipped and fell into the koi pond. Some people fell into the water, and some ladies screamed in fright. The nuns and palace maids who were waiting at a distance hurried over, jumped into the pool and worked together to rescue the girl. The koi pond was not too deep, and everyone thought that the girl had no big problem. Unexpectedly, after the nun rescued her, her face changed drastically. That girl is out of breath. Bleeding from the 7 orifices indicates poisoning. Just at this moment, someone exclaimed, "Look, those koi fish are all dead." Everyone turned their heads, and the koi carps in the pond, which were originally bouncing around, all turned their bellies. Those red-crested koi carps that ladies can't find anywhere have not escaped their bad luck. Not only a lady died inexplicably, but all the koi in the Queen's pond also died. The hearts of everyone present, whether they were ladies or the serving maids and women, sank. Those koi carps, were they poisoned by Miss Ling? The girl who spoke is Xiao Zhen, the eldest daughter of Xiao Zhanbo. Ling Chu, who happened to be walking over, had a cold expression on his face. "Miss Xiao, you can eat randomly, but you can't talk nonsense. What evidence do you have to prove that I was the one who poisoned you?" Xiao Zhen glared at her confidently. "When we came over just now, we saw you feeding the koi fish alone. If you hadn't poisoned them, who else could have been there?" As soon as Xiao Zhen finished speaking, the Queen and the ladies from various families heard the news and hurried over. When she saw the koi carp with its belly turned upside down in the pond, the Queen's face darkened. When she saw the girl lying on the ground, she frowned even more. That is concubine An's niece, Kang Anbo's eldest daughter Cao Fang. Before the Queen had time to ask what happened, concubine An walked over quickly, holding the maid's hand, followed by several ladies. "Fang Fang." Mrs. Kang Amber fainted on the spot when she caught a glimpse of the girl lying on the ground. Concubine An's face was frightened and angry, and she hurriedly ordered her personal maid, "Hurry and ask for the imperial doctor." Soon the palace maid and the imperial doctor came in a hurry. Someone died at the banquet, and even the emperor was alarmed. While the imperial doctor was examining Miss Cao, the emperor came over, followed by many officials. Kang Anbo staggered forward and didn't bother to look at his wife. He knelt beside the girl and said "Fang Fang" in great sorrow. She yelled in pain. Seeing that the imperial doctor was still examining her, and fearing to disturb him, she could only wait eagerly with red eyes. The imperial doctor looked at the blackened silver needle in his hand and shook his head. "This poison is too overbearing, and the girl is hopeless." "Who poisoned my daughter?" After losing his daughter suddenly, Kang Anbo ignored the presence of the emperor and roared with scarlet eyes. No one spoke, and the place was quiet. Concubine An's cold eyes passed over the ladies. What happened? Contacting concubine An's anger, Xiao Zhen was startled and raised her hand. "Miss Ling poisoned her to death." End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 268. As soon as Xiao Zhen finished speaking, Ning Chui glanced at Ling Chu worriedly. Since Princess Pingyang saw Ning Chui, she has been quietly watching him with her peripheral vision. Seeing him looking at Ling Chu, he felt furious. That was indeed a fox. Concubine An glared at Ling Chu angrily. "Is it true that Miss Ling poisoned my niece?" Facing the imperial concubine's anger, Ling Chu looked calm. "If I say that I didn't poison Miss Cao, I'm afraid the imperial concubine won't believe it in this case. Why not let someone come and find out?" "Your Majesty, let's leave this matter to Dali Temple." The emperor glanced at Ning Chui and felt quite satisfied when he saw him speaking. The minister of Dali Temple glanced at Ning Chui, but did not dare to say anything. He only complained in his heart that it was rare for him to attend a banquet, but he didn't expect to investigate the case. The ministers of Dali Temple were well prepared, but to their surprise, the emperor did not find him. Instead, he said to the Minister of Punishment, "Diking, I will leave this matter to you. Yes, your majesty, the emperor himself ordered it, so Di Shangshu naturally did not refute and responded respectfully. He quickly questioned the ladies who were gathered around the koi pond. In front of everyone, and with the emperor, queen, and concubines present, the ladies were nervous and quickly explained what had happened. It's just that those girls didn't know how the koi fish in the pond was poisoned. About Miss Cao's death, no one even knew. They only said that she accidentally slipped into the pond while looking at the koi fish. It was speculated that she choked on the water and was poisoned to death. Princess Pingyang quietly gave Xiao Zhen a wink. Xiao Zhen did not expect that the emperor would ask the Minister of Punishment to investigate, and she felt nervous. Even though he didn't want to speak anymore, his heart trembled when he thought of Princess Pingyang's words. Di Shangshu, those koi carp must have been poisoned by Miss Ling when we came, we saw her feeding the koi carp. Ling Chu frowned. This was the first time she saw this girl today. He had no grievances against her, but I don't know why she insists on insisting that she was the one who poisoned her. Hearing Xiao Zhen's accusation again, concubine and Kang Anbo glared at Ling Chu angrily. It's just that because of the emperor's presence, it's hard to have an attack. Ling Chu did not make any excuses, but said calmly to the Minister of Punishment, Master Di, I did feed the koi. The remaining fish food is placed by the pavilion. Your Excellency, you can ask the imperial doctor to check whether it is poisonous. Before the Minister of Punishment opened his mouth, the emperor glanced at the imperial physician. The imperial doctor immediately went to check the fish food. The results will be available soon. Fish food is not poisonous. Ling Chu was not surprised by this and said quietly, Master Di, I am not the only one who fed the koi. You see. Although she didn't finish what she said, Di Shangshu had already understood it. The ladies who were by the koi pond earlier are also suspects, and they will all be questioned. The ladies were originally nervous, but knowing that the fish food was not poisonous, they were no longer afraid. No one who has fed koi fish denies it. Although it is known who has fed the koi, it cannot be determined who poisoned it. It seems that the only option is to search the person. The Minister of the Ministry of Finance has a headache. They are all ladies, and it is difficult for him to do anything. I was planning to borrow some maids from the Queen to search the lady. Ling Chu smiled and said, no need to search. Just wait for a quarter of an hour and the murderer will be caught. The Minister of Punishment frowned, what does Miss Ling mean by this? The murderer threw poison into the koi pond, even though the poison was originally wrapped in paper, but the poison was so toxic that the person who threw the poison could not avoid being poisoned even if it was separated by paper. It's just that the onset time will be slower. But as long as he waits for another quarter of an hour and the poison takes effect, he will naturally know who the murderer is. As soon as Ling Chu finished speaking, Xiao Zhen's expression changed. The Minister of Punishment was secretly staring at the ladies, and he could tell something was wrong with her. Is it Miss Xiao who poisoned me? Everyone's eyes followed the Minister of Punishment and stared at Xiao Zhen. Xiao Zhen waved her hands in horror and denied, no, it's not me. Ling Chu interrupted her coldly, Miss Xiao, you don't have much time left. If you waste any more time denying it, you will be dead. This Miss Xiao kept biting her, and Ling Chu had long been suspicious of her. It's just that she has no grudge against her. If it was she who poisoned him, he must have been used as a weapon by someone else. Originally Xiao Zhen did not believe that she would be poisoned, but when she saw Cao Fang bleeding from all her orifices, she couldn't help but feel fear in her heart. What if? Thinking of the fear of death, Xiao Zhen's eyes darkened. Looking towards the crowd subconsciously. There were many people present, but she didn't know who to ask for help. Her mother died long ago. Her father Shushanbo was lustful, but he knew that the ladies who came to the banquets were not his arbitrariness, so he never attended these banquets. Of course I'm not here today. I don't know which brothel I'm having a good time in at the moment. Perhaps the fear of death was too great. When Xiao Zhen saw the imperial doctor, she was instantly overjoyed and subconsciously rushed over. Physician, please help me. Princess Pingyang was so angry that she fell backwards, criticizing the fool in his heart. Although she wanted to stop him, she couldn't speak out in front of everyone. The imperial doctor glanced at the emperor, and struggled to pull his arm out of Xiao Zhen's hand. The poison is too strong, I am powerless. Isn't there an antidote for the poison you gave yourself? Xiao Zhen looked desperate. She never thought that she would be poisoned, so she never thought of an antidote. Subconsciously glanced at Princess Pingyang. However, he saw that she only glared at him viciously, and then glanced in Ling Chu's direction. Xiao Zhen was filled with anger, but had no choice but to let go of the imperial doctor's hand and rush towards Ling Chu instead. With a plop, he knelt down towards Ling Chu and said, Miss Ling, I have followed your instructions and put the poison into the koi pond. I have done everything you asked, please give me the antidote. Ning Chui's face turned cold and he was about to speak. Ling Chu said coldly, Miss Xiao, do you still insist on framing me now? Don't blame me for not reminding you, if you take the antidote now, you can save your own life. But if you insist on delaying it any longer, it will be useless even if Deluo Jingxian descends to earth. Xiao Zhen stopped asking for help and looked up at Ling Chu. She thought that if she begged her, she would always be soft-hearted. However, from Ling Chu's eyes, she only saw a coldness. No sympathy at all. Anger suddenly arose in Xiao Zhen's heart, and soon turned into sadness, anger, and despair. Ling Chu still looked at her coldly, and even said ruthlessly, Miss Xiao, have a good trip. You poisoned Miss Xiao to death. I hope that after you die, you can withstand the torture of the 18 levels of hell. Xiao Zhen's pupils shrank. She is still so young, she cannot die, she has not yet enjoyed the prosperity of this world. Xiao Zhen could no longer hold back the fear in her heart, turned around and rushed towards Princess Pingyang, grabbing her by the waist and saying, Princess, give me the antidote quickly. Princess Pingyang is almost mad at this idiot. Without thinking, he slapped her face and said, What are you talking about? How can I have an antidote? Thank you for the white clouds in the sky L, silent blessing, dusty memory, 20230121012702243, colorful life, CHLWCH, morning glory under the scorching sun, dark and twisted crawling, Alice. A. Zhao Yilanzian, 854-729, China Fuse, 7 ZAO, 202302084311051, 140212184021428, Zeng, Why We Grow Old, Pen Yongfang, Yuan Wan, Crystal Ball, Yangliuan, Chen, Kingsha Makeup. Tibaman Future, Panax Noto Ginseng. DB, Prose. BA, All Living Beings, Kingsha Zhuang, White Clouds in the Sky L, Wind on the Blue Planet, Prose. BA, Prose. BA and other book friends recommendation votes support. Thanks to Hungziu and the book friends who support Hungziu. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 269. Xiao Zhen covered her face, feeling angry and annoyed. She regretted it. Although she loves Princess Pinjiang's eldest brother and wants to marry him. But that love was not enough to cost her her life. Xiao Zhen's heart was beating violently, and she found it difficult to breathe. Is she going to die of poison soon? Xiao Zhen rushed over eagerly, pulled Princess Pinjiang's sleeves and begged, Princess, please give me the antidote. Princess Pingyang threw her hand away and said, I didn't poison her, so how could I have the antidote? Seeing everyone looking at her strangely, Princess Pingyang's face became even more ugly. She secretly scolded Xiao Zhen for being a pig-brained person. That Humiizi only threatened her a few times, but she believed him and was stupid enough to come over and ask her for the antidote. She is tantamount to telling everyone that she is going to poison Cao Fang Fang and the Queen's koi. Princess Pinjiang's intestines are filled with regret. How could she leave such an important matter to such a fool who has little success but only failure? Xiao Zhen saw that no matter how much she begged, Princess Pingyang refused to give her the antidote. Coupled with the fear of death, she risked her life regardless. Princess, it's obvious that you are jealous that Cao Fang Fang is prettier than you, and she looks prettier in the same dress than you, and you are also angry that Miss Ling stole your limelight today. You know that I want to marry your eldest brother, so you forced me to throw poison into the koi pond, and then pushed Cao Fang Fang into the pond and poisoned her to death, hoping to put the blame on Miss Ling. Xiao Zhen glared at Princess Pingyang resentfully. Since she was about to die, she couldn't even think about having an easy time. Princess Pingyang roared angrily, you are such a slanderer. I am a noble princess. Do I need to be jealous of others? Not to mention that Miss Ling is just a commoner. Even if she is Cao Fang Fang, how can I be inferior to her? Although no one of the ladies present spoke a word, everyone knew that Princess Pingyang was trying to put money on her face. Princess Pingyang usually cares most about her appearance, but her appearance is just there, no matter how much she dresses up, it won't make her look any better. Although Cao Fang Fang's status is not as good as hers, her figure and appearance are several steps ahead of Princess Pingyang. Although Princess Pingyang denied Xiao Zhen's words, she was furiously cursing in her heart. Then Cao Fang Fang is not as noble as her, so why is she better looking than her? There is also the dress she is wearing, but it took the embroiderer more than half a year to embroider it carefully. As for Cao Fang Fang's skirt, although the color is the same as hers, neither the material nor the embroidery work can compare with hers. But just because Cao Fang Fang has a better appearance and figure than her, others are full of praise for her. What's even more damning about Cao Fang Fang is that she dares to secretly admire her brother Ning. There is also that foxy Ling Chu who is just a poor man, but he still dares to seduce brother Ning in the palace. How can she tolerate it? Those two deserve to die. The faces of King Guangping and his wife were gloomy. They did not expect that their daughter would dare to instigate others to poison the palace. This is a big no-no. Princess Guangping first glanced at her personal maid and asked her to go find the Queen Mother. Then he glared coldly at his daughter's maid and asked her to come out and take the blame. Kang Anbo did not expect that Princess Pingyang was just jealous of his daughter's good looks and wanted to poison her to death. Choking, she kowtowed to the emperor, my daughter died unjustly. I beg the emperor to make the decision for me, and Gai Fei also said, Pingyang was so bold that he secretly brought poison into the palace and poisoned my niece. I beg the emperor take responsibility and serve as a warning to others. The emperor's face was gloomy and he motioned to the Minister of Punishment to come forward and arrest the person. Although King Guangping couldn't bear to see his daughter arrested, he knew that poisoning the palace was against the emperor's taboo, so how could he let her go? Princess Guangping was anxious and winked at the maid repeatedly. Princess Pinjiang's maid knew that if she didn't come forward to take the blame, the princess would definitely not let her go. He could only rush forward with a pale face and plead to the Minister of Punishment. Sir, this matter has nothing to do with my princess. It was my servant who couldn't stand Cao Fang Fang, so she asked Miss Xiao to poison her to death and put the blame on Miss Ling. I gave the poison to Miss Xiao, and my princess didn't know it. Ching, please don't arrest her. After the maid said this, she quickly turned around and jumped into the koi pond. To protect her family, the maid was prepared to die. Jump into the pool, open your mouth and swallow the water in big gulps. The poison of the medicine was too strong. After the Minister of Punishment had someone drag her up, the maid had already died. Ping Yang was overjoyed when he saw the maid come out to take the blame. Seeing the Queen Mother coming over to support her grandma again, she immediately rushed over with tears in her eyes and tugged on her sleeves. While crying, she told her that she was innocent, putting all the poisoning on the maid. The Queen Mother has always liked Prince Guangping and his wife, and she has always loved Princess Ping Yang. Seeing her crying sadly, she hurriedly said to the Emperor, "Since the poison was caused by the maid on her own initiative, it has nothing to do with Ping Yang. However, the maid did something wrong, and Ping Yang, the master, was also at fault, but she was only wrong because she was not strict with her subordinates." The AI family made the decision and punished Ping Yang to copy 10 scriptures to Miss Cao to save her soul. Arrange a palace made for Ping Yang to teach her how to govern, so that nothing like today will happen again. As for Miss Cao's posthumous affairs, all the money spent will be paid by the Guangping Palace. Kang Anbo, are you satisfied with the way the AI family has been dealt with? Cao Fangfang died unjustly, and the Queen Mother's punishment of Princess Ping Yang was neither painful nor itchy. How could Kang Anbo be satisfied? But no matter how dissatisfied he was, the Queen Mother had to protect her. Not to mention that he had nothing to do, not even the Emperor could object. Concubine was angry, but she could only watch the Queen Mother take Ping Yang away. Even though someone died, the Queen invited so many people into the palace, so naturally she would not let the banquet break up like this. It happened that the banquet was about to begin, and the Emperor and Queen left with the officials and their wives. Concubine did not leave, after all, it was her niece who died. Seeing that Kang Anbo and his wife were very sad, Concubine ordered the maid to take them and Miss Cao's body out of the palace. Ling Chu saw that Cao Fangfang's puppet soul had been in a state of confusion and could not accept that he had been poisoned to death. He sighed and took her away. However, Ling Chu didn't quite believe that Princess Ping Yang was just jealous of Miss Cao's good looks and wanted to poison her. Cao Fangfang sneered, "That Ping Yang is not only jealous that I am prettier than her, she secretly loves Commander Ning, but I just looked at Lord Ning a few times because of his good looks, and she mistakenly thought that I wanted to seduce Lord Ning. Ping Yang warned me not to seduce Master Ning. I explained to her that I didn't, but she didn't believe it. The reason why she wanted to frame you was because when you went to meet the Emperor, she saw you with Lord Ning and felt that you were seducing him." Ling Chu looked shocked. So it turns out that she and Miss Cao were both implicated by Mr. Ning's misfortune. Today I thought my fever was finally going down, but unexpectedly, after finishing 2 chapters, my fever started again. Having a headache, my brain is in a state of turmoil. It's really a thin blue mushroom. Fortunately, everyone is silently supporting me, which makes me feel very happy. Thank you all again. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 270. Ling Chu did not expect that Lord Ning, as the commander of the Jinyi Guards, would have girls killing people for him. But when I think about it, I don't think it's strange anymore. After all, his appearance is indeed quite attractive. Luckily he is the commander of the Jinyi Guards, he is usually stoic, and he is also known as the god of killing. Otherwise, I don't know how many ladies would go crazy for him. For the sake of his own life, Ling Chu decided to have as little contact with him as possible in the future, so as not to run into a lady like Princess Ping Yang who was jealous to the point of murder again. Ning Chui didn't have yin and yang eyes, so he couldn't hear Cao Fangfang's words. Naturally, he didn't know that Princess Ping Yang was killing people for him. Seeing that Ling Chu looked at him with disgust, he frowned in confusion. Wandering around in my mind, I couldn't remember what I had done to make her disgusted. Princess Ping Yang was taken away by the Queen Mother. Xiao Zhen couldn't get the antidote and collapsed on the ground in despair. She thought she was dead. However, a quarter of an hour passed, and there was no poison at all. My heart suddenly became ecstatic. Seeing Ling Chu on the side, he realized later and said angrily, "I'm not poisoned, it turns out you were lying to me." Ling Chu said softly, "I lied to you, so what? Although you were not poisoned, you poisoned the queen's precious koi to death, and then pushed Miss Cao into the pond and poisoned her to death. Do you think you are still alive? Can you live?" Xiao Zhen's heart suddenly sank. How could she forget this? The Minister of Punishment on the side shook his head. He was so stupid, no wonder he was used as a gunman. With nothing to say, the Minister of Punishment waved over two people and escorted Xiao Zhen away. Everyone has left, and Ling Chu has no intention of staying. Back to the female guests, the queen just ordered a banquet. The Ling mansion has been defeated, and the palace maid leads Ling Chu to the seat at the end. Ling Chu didn't mind either. The palace was a place where right and wrong were settled, and she had no intention of being in the spotlight. I was planning to find an opportunity to say goodbye to the queen after finishing my meal. Princess Ding Yuan saw Ling Chu sitting at the end and hurriedly gave some instructions to her maid. After hearing this, the maid left quickly. Ling Chu looked at the maid in front of him with some surprise. "Princess Ding Yuan wants me to sit with her." The maid nodded respectfully. Ling Chu turned his head to look at Princess Ding Yuan and saw that she was nodding and smiling at him and waving to her, and he couldn't help but feel moved in his heart. It would be nice to sit with Princess Ding Yuan, as it would be a good opportunity to ask her about her birth that year. Ling Chu stood up and followed the maid towards Princess Ding Yuan. Princess Guangping happened to be sitting at the same table as Princess Ding Yuan. Seeing Ling Chu sitting in her daughter's original position, she couldn't help but frown. Even though she was unhappy, her daughter was taken away by the Queen Mother after what happened. Princess Ding Yuan wanted Ling Chu to sit in Pinjiang's seat, so she couldn't say much. Just seeing Ling Chu chatting and laughing with Princess Ding Yuan, Princess Guangping became more and more angry. A palace maid next to her was preparing to serve the dishes. Princess Guangping's eyes flashed, and she quickly stretched out her foot to trip. The palace maid jumped forward. Seeing the dish in the palace maid's hand rushing toward him, Ling Chu dodged to the side. She dodged, but the palace maid was caught off guard and couldn't stop herself. The dish was thrown directly at Princess Ding Yuan next to her. Ling Chu subconsciously waved his hand to block it. With a clang, the dish fell to the ground. Before Princess Guangping could put away the proud smile on her lips, she saw the oil splattered on her skirt, and a flash of anger flashed across her face. Princess Ding Yuan hurriedly grabbed Ling Chu's arm and asked urgently, "Are you burned?" Ling Chu shook his head, "Don't worry, Princess, I'm fine." Although Ling Chu said it was okay, Princess Ding Yuan was still worried. I carefully opened her sleeves and took a closer look. I saw that apart from being stained by oil, her arms were indeed not red or blistered, so I was relieved. There was also oil stains on her abdomen, but in full view of the public, the princess could not examine her. Princess Ding Yuan looked worried and said, "You kid, why are you helping me to avoid disasters? Fortunately, the dishes are not hot. What if I get burned and disfigured?" Ling Chu smiled and said, "You can't burn the princess. I'm old, so it doesn't matter if I get burned. But you are different. You are still young, so your appearance cannot be damaged." Seeing that Princess Ding Yuan was really worried about her, Ling Chu felt warm in his heart. Actually, she just saw the dish being thrown at Princess Ding Yuan. In her desperation, she didn't think much and subconsciously stretched out her hand to block it for her. The palace maid fell down and just got up. When she saw the oil stains on Princess Guangping and Ling Chu, she was so frightened that she knelt down and begged for mercy, "This slave deserves to die." Princess Guangping slapped her in the face. A stewardess heard the commotion and came over immediately. Seeing the palace maid throwing the dishes, he calmly ordered someone to come over and drag her down with a cane. The palace maid was frightened and begged for mercy. "Mom, please spare my life. I didn't do it on purpose. Someone tripped me on purpose." Princess Guangping's heart tightened. The nanny was angry when she saw that the palace maid had made such a big mistake and still dared to make excuses. He was also afraid that she would disturb the banquet, so he didn't want to hear her explanation at all. "I just wanted to gag her and drag her down to punish her." Ling Chu waved his hand to stop the nanny, and asked the palace maid softly, "You mean, someone tripped you?" The palace maid nodded desperately. "That's right, if I hadn't tripped you, I would never have fallen down." Ling Chu believed that she was not lying. After all, if they had not learned the rules well, it would be impossible for these maids to be released to serve. "Can you see who is tripping you?" The palace maid shook her head sadly. "I didn't see it." Ling Chu recalled the position where the palace maid had just walked over, paused, and looked at Princess Guangping beside her. Princess Guangping knew that the palace maid had never noticed that she had tripped her, and was not afraid of Ling Chu's scrutiny at all. Although Ling Chu suspected that it was Princess Guangping, she couldn't do anything to her without evidence. She failed to burn Ling Chu, but ruined her newly made clothes and embroidered shoes. Princess Dingyuan was angry. "This maid is rough-handed and reckless. I didn't drag her down quickly and punished her with a cane." Ling Chu glanced at her coldly and said softly, "Although the palace maid dropped the dishes, she didn't do it on purpose. If someone's feet hadn't been mean, she wouldn't have fallen. Everyone is careless sometimes, so please don't scold the maid. It's just a dish, if you drop it, it will drop. It doesn't matter if your clothes are dirty, just change them." The palace maid didn't expect Ling Chu to plead for her, so she looked at her gratefully and said, "Thank you, girl." Ling Chu didn't want to pursue the case, and the nun in charge was happy to let the maid go. Princess Dingyuan also waved to the palace maid, "Forget it, leave quickly. Remember to be more careful when serving in the future." Even though Princess Guangping was angry, Ling Chu didn't care about the palace maid. If she still insisted on punishing her, it would appear that she was an aggressive princess. Seeing that Ling Chu's clothes were dirty, Princess Dingyuan said, "Let's go, I'll accompany you to change." In Princess Guangping's lowered eyes, something flashed across her eyes. End of chapter.